Good evening, everyone. It's 6:30, so we'll start our special council meeting for Wednesday, April the 6th. I would like to welcome everybody here this evening. I did receive regrets from Deputy Mayor Davidson and Councillor Ices, who won't be here with us this evening, but we do have quorum, so I will call this meeting to order. Please be advised that this meeting is being live streamed and will be audio and video recorded and shall form part of the record, which will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. And for more information about this collection, please contact the clerk's services. And just a friendly reminder to all speakers tonight to please remember to mute your audio when you're not speaking. I will now pass it over to Councillor Van Berkel for the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Your Worship. The town of Innisfil acknowledges that the town of Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. We, the town, also acknowledge that this land is the traditional territories of the first peoples of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe peoples of Bosolile First Nation, Chippewas of Arama First Nation, and Chippewas of Georgina Islands First Nation, and we thank them for their generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in a spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people.
Thank you, Councillor Van Berkel. Now, could I ask that we have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting? Moved by Councillor Waters, seconded by Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. I will then ask if there's any disclosures of interest, pecuniary conflict of interest that anyone would like to declare this evening. Madam Deputy Clerk, I'm seeing no hands. So we'll get started. So tonight we have one item on the agenda for information and public consultation purposes with no decisions being made this evening. We'll start by hearing from a consultant on behalf of the town and then a consultant on behalf of the applicant regarding a draft plan of condominium and proposed amendments to the town's official plan and zoning bylaw for 1155 Guilford Road, 257 Beach Road, and 269 Maple Grove Road, and 278 Woodfield Road. Council may have questions or provide comment, and then we will have an opportunity for public consultation where members of the public who have pre-registered will be identified on the speakers list. And when it's your turn, I will ask you to turn on your video and audio, and you'll have 5 minutes to ask your questions or express your concerns or comments. Staff will respond where possible. If there is a question asked that staff are not able to respond to, it will be addressed in the report that comes back to council. Once everyone has had an opportunity to have their 5 minutes, then if you were not able to finish your comments or thoughts in your first 5 minutes, you have another opportunity to speak. We just want everyone to have equal opportunity at first, and then we can provide extra time for those who needed it at the end. Should any member of the public watching the live stream wish to make comment during the meeting, they can email clerk's services where the deputy clerk will be monitoring for input and will provide your comments to council and town staff during the meeting. Any comments received will become part of the public record. So if you do not submit your comments during this meeting, you can still send comments and they will be provided to council and town staff. You will also be added to the circulation list as an interested party where you'll be kept updated on any future information regarding this item. The email and the phone number will be listed on the PowerPoint during the meeting and is also available on tonight's agenda that can be found on our website. We'll now hear from the town clerk on how the public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening. Notice for this public meeting was provided to required agencies on March 2nd, 2022, and the notice was circulated to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject lands on March 18th, 2022, in accordance with the Ontario regulations. Corresponding signage was posted on the property on March 18th, 2022, and notice was provided in the March 3rd and March 17th issues of the Innisfil Journal. Information and materials respecting the application were also posted on the town's Get Involved page.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Has any correspondence been received by Clerk Services concerning the proposed amendments?
Yes, Your Worship, we have received 12 pieces of correspondence, and I'll just quickly read through who they're from and when they were received. So the first item from Sherry Van Dyke, dated March 15th, expressing concerns about the proposed application. The second item from Heather Westcott, dated March 23rd, expressing concerns about the application. Third item from Lorna Atkins, dated March 30th, expressing concerns. Fourth item from Tracy Sprague, dated March 30th, expressing concerns as well. Fifth from Gerald and Marlene Went, dated March 30th, expressing concerns. Sixth from Heather McLean, dated April 4th, expressing concerns about the application. Seventh item from Angie Body, who had submitted a petition signed by 270 people opposing the proposed application. Eighth from Harry Atchison, dated April 6th, stating an objection to the proposed application. Ninth item from Don Tada, dated April 6th, expressing concerns about the application. 10th from Darwin Duckworth, dated April 6th, stating objections to the proposed application. The 11th from David Rowan, dated April 6th, stating objections. And the 12th item from Sharon and Barry Muncie, dated April 6th, expressing concerns as well. And Your Worship, just a quick reminder, members of the public may provide comment or register their interest regarding the application during the meeting or up until council makes a decision on the application by contacting the clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And all of council has received a copy of each of the correspondence as well as staff, and it will form part of the public record. I just want to say that quite often when we have applications like this, we'll get a lot of correspondence, but it's typically one letter cut and pasted and mailed in by dozens of people. I can't speak for council, but I can say from my perspective that I appreciated that each of these unique correspondents came in with different ideas and thoughts, and it's very much appreciated. We'll now hear from David Riley, partner with SGL Planning and Design Incorporated, Town of Innisfil, who will provide a high-level summary of the planning context of the proposed amendment. Welcome, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to be here. Perfect. I see the presentation there. So yes, my name is David Riley. I'm with SGL Planning and Design. And just to clarify again, we are hired by the town of Innisfil to work with staff to work and review this application or these applications that are before you tonight. So you can think of me as an extension of staff tonight, and Paul Lowe's from SGL is also on the call, along with planning staff. As was mentioned, this is an application for a draft plan of condominium, official plan amendment, and zoning bylaw amendment for 1155 Guilford Road, 257 Beach Road, 269 Maple Grove Road, and 278 Woodfield Road within the Guilford settlement area. Next slide, please. So the applications that I just mentioned, they were filed with the town in May of 2021 by Innovative Planning Solutions on behalf of the owners of Cooks Bay Marina. And you can see Cooks Bay Marina noted on the map here. Next slide, please. So the application is for the development of a resort at Cooks Bay Marina. And you can see the outline of the buildings here, and there's different components. So if you could just click once and a little box will show up. So this box that just showed up is a proposed 7-story, 74-unit resort residential building within, as you can see on the northwest portion of the subject lands, and that would accommodate seasonal accommodations with ground floor commercial uses. One more click, please. So this next building that just showed up, kind of the northeast section of the plan, this is a 5-story, 75-room hotel and resort building with 11 resort condominium suites for seasonal accommodation and main floor retail, which would include a restaurant. Next click, please. So down in the bottom right-hand corner there, this is a proposed or a set of 5 3-story townhouse units, which would have boat slip connections right out in front of them into the Marina Canal there. Next click, please. That there on the south side of where you can see those boat slips, the reddish color that just came up, this is a 2-story Marina Services building that's proposed on the south side of the Marina Canal across from that hotel and resort building. And the next click, please. So these over here on the west side of the plan, this where the, I believe, boat parking is now. These are 3-story boat storage buildings that are proposed. So they would each be 3 stories structures. And then next click, please. Over on the right-hand side there near Lake Simcoe, this is a parkette that's proposed along the shoreline of the lake and the Marina Canal, which would have passive recreational uses. And then you can see the existing marina there with the boat slips. It's proposed that all of the 140 existing boat slips would be retained on the subject site. Next slide, please. So as noted, the proposed development requires amendments to the town's official plan and zoning bylaw. So the official plan amendment proposes to redesignate the lands that you see here in those highlighted areas. They're currently designated both shoreline commercial area and hamlet residential area, and it's proposed that they would be redesignated to the resort recreational area designation. So outside of the Guilford settlement area boundary, there's also at the bottom on that map that we're showing there, the bottom left-hand corner, those area that's not colored, those are actually outside. They're part of the subject property, but they're outside of the settlement area. They're designated key natural heritage features. That's not proposed to change. There's no development proposed there. So just wanted to state that. And the official plan amendment proposes essentially the way that it would work would be it would amend Section 13 of the official plan, which is the section that has the policies for the resort recreational designation, and it would include new policies pertaining to the subject lands. Currently, there's only a reference within that section in relation to the Big Bay Point or Friday Harbor as we know it, as being the only resort within town. Next slide, please. So the zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the western portion of the lands, in kind of that lighter yellow color, which is 278 Woodfield Road, from commercial tourist zone and commercial tourist 4 zone, which is an exception zone that permits only boat storage today, to high density resort residential zone. And this is where we saw that 5-story building proposed. The lands at 1155 Guilford Road, which is the, I guess the orangey color kind of at the top there, would be rezoned from commercial tourist zone to resort recreational hotel commercial zone. So that's the RRHC labels that you see there. And then you can see the area that's circled in red there. So these 2 properties are not subject to the town's zoning bylaw. These are governed by the town's Our Shore Community Planning Permit System bylaw. Now we know that on the south side of the Marina Canal, there's townhouses proposed, and on the north side, it's a park. The applications that are the subject of this meeting tonight are the official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and plan of condo. They do not address these these two pieces of land that are circled in red, because a separate amendment will be required, and that will, we understand from the applicant, will be applied for, but it's an amendment to the community planning permit bylaw, which is something new, I think, for everyone, as it's a fairly new bylaw, but this will have to come before council as a separate matter that's related, of course, and we're going to talk about the whole proposal tonight within the applicant's presentation. But we just wanted to highlight that a separate amendment is required for that part of the proposal that's governed by the Our Shore Community Planning Permit bylaw. Next slide, please. So as with all planning applications, as I'm sure council and many members of the public are aware, we must review and assess the proposed development in relation to applicable policies and regulations, including provincial policy, such as the provincial policy statement, the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. And then, of course, county policy through the County of Simcoe official plan, and then the town policy through the town's Our Place official plan, and then applicable regulations in the town zoning bylaw and the town's Our Shore Community Planning Permit System bylaw. Next slide, please. So as we progress through our review, and it's still early days, in our review of the applications, and also considering comments that we've received and that we're continuing to receive, we've identified key matters that will need to be explored further as we assess this application. And those include ensuring that the proposed resort residential units are only used on a seasonal basis and not year-round. And along with that, determining the potential form and nature of a rental pool program for the resort. Ensuring appropriate transition in scale and built form to the adjacent low-rise residential dwellings. And this includes, of course, transition, shadowing, overlook, and impacts of both the 7-story resort residential building and the proposed 5-story hotel buildings on the residential properties to the north, west, and east surrounding the site. So, important things, and we've certainly seen a lot of the comments speaking to that so far. Also, we'll be looking at, the need to provide public access to the waterfront, as well as the resort amenities that are proposed here. Looking to ensure that parking and traffic impacts are mitigated. And this includes considering the location of parking, the location of loading areas in relation to the street and the adjacent residential dwellings. We'll be looking at the streetscape in terms of, having parking adjacent to the street versus buildings adjacent to the street, and what might, be a more desirable condition. We'll be looking at pedestrian circulation on site, and also, how do the different parts of the resort connect? So that west portion to the east portion of the subject lands. And as well, we'll be looking at the feasibility of the proposed servicing solutions, of course, in relation to provincial, the Lake Simcoe and Region Conservation Authority and town policies, as well as ensuring conformity with applicable servicing policies in the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. Next slide, please. So we'll be reviewing, of course, as I mentioned, and considering all public, town department, and agency comments received as we move forward, and we'll be reporting back to council at a future meeting with a recommendation. And then the town will be providing notice to all of those who have requested to be notified, as well as anyone who has submitted written correspondence, as Madam Mayor has already mentioned. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. We'll now hear from Kyle Galvin, Senior Planner with Innovative Planning Solutions Incorporated, on behalf of the applicant concerning the proposed amendment. Welcome, Mr. Galvin.
And good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Kyle Galvin, and I'm a Senior Planner and Registered Professional Planner at Innovative Planning Solutions, representing the owner of the Cooks Bay Marina. This evening, I will introduce you to a development concept for a proposed application for an official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of condominium, and welcome any questions and feedback you may have on the proposal. Next slide, please. I wanted to begin the presentation this evening by outlining the vision for the project as a whole before describing the individual aspects of the proposed development. First of all, I want to emphasize that one of our top priorities is to work with and address the concerns of the community. I know there's a lot to take in, and there have been a number of questions and concerns raised. I hope that some of those concerns will be addressed this evening, but please know that we are committed to working closely with town staff, the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, and other regulatory bodies, as well as having continued communication with the community throughout the planning process. As you know, the proposal is to provide a hotel and resort including seasonal residences on the subject lands. As described earlier, part of the lands are currently zoned for commercial tourism. The official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment would seek to add resort residential units with seasonal occupancy as a permitted use and include any site-specific zoning provisions required to accommodate the built form. With regards to the residential uses, the proposal is dependent on it being seasonal, and we are committed to maintaining seasonal occupancy. We are currently working through a couple of options which would ensure this, including the use of occupancy restrictions or blackout months when selling the units, as well as fractional and or interval ownership. We, of course, will be working with the town to ensure satisfaction of the solution. In terms of the project design, we hope to create a sense of place and build a space for the community to enjoy throughout the year. The proposal will bring new tourism and employment opportunities and includes many new amenities that are not readily available in Guilford, such as restaurants and new retail and commercial spaces. The proposal will facilitate year-round recreational activities for the community and represents a positive change and advancement to the community and town of Innisfil as a whole. Overall, we hope the development will serve the well-being and quality of life for the community. Next slide, please. This slide shows the proposal as a whole within the community. I will go through each area individually in more detail, but I think this view gives a good sense of the proposal in context of the neighborhood. The proposal will result in a comprehensive resort-style development, which will include a mixed-use resort residential condo building with grade-related commercial units, a parking area with 3-tier boat storage system and state-of-the-art sewage treatment facility, a resort hotel and conference center, a Marina Services building with a cafe and lounge, a parkette, and 1 block of lakefront townhouses with 5 units. Next slide, please. Building 1 is located at the northwestern portion of the property at the southwestern corner of Guilford Road and Woodfield Road. It includes a 7-story mixed-use resort residential building with commercial uses at grade. The seasonal building will include 74 units located on floors 2 through 7. Amenity space is provided within the building, including a rooftop activity space. Commercial and retail spaces are proposed to face Guilford and Woodfield Road. The proposal includes 114 outdoor surface parking spaces and 28 internal parking spaces on the ground floor. Vehicular access to the building is provided via a 7.5-meter drive aisle from Guilford Road near the western boundary of the property, as well as along Woodfield Road. The building has been sited to minimize the impacts on the neighboring properties. Specifically, it has been given generous setbacks from both Guilford Road and Milford Road, with the height of the building being placed in the center of the lot. It has also been designed to include a series of step backs at the 4th, 5th, and 7th floors, which will help reduce the visual impact of height and shadows from the building onto the street and neighboring properties. Next slide, please. Adjacent to the south of the building, Building 1, is a large surface parking lot with access from Woodfield Road. It includes 206 parking spaces and 2 3-tier boat storage structures for off-season boat storage. The boat storage structures will incorporate public art and screening from the east and west. South of these is the proposed sewage treatment facility and effluent disposal beds. The proposed system is a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment solution and represents the best available in the market today. Next slide, please. Across Woodfield Road to the east is Building 3. This building contains a 2-story Marina Services building, including a lounge, washrooms, kitchen, Marina Services, and retail, as well as a cafe. An outdoor patio area is proposed beside the cafe, which connects to a boardwalk that extends around the Marina Canal. In the winter, a skating rink is proposed in front of the building in the Marina Channel for a community enjoyment. A boat launch is located along the western edge of the building, accessed from Nesbitt Road. Next slide, please. Across the Marina Channel is Building 4, the Hotel and Resort Building. This is a 5-story mixed-use building which steps down towards the lake. The ground floor of the building will consist of the hotel reception and lounge area, meeting rooms, a restaurant and commercial and retail units, washrooms, as well as amenity space, including a pool and sauna. The second floor contains a large conference room, washrooms, and additional amenity space, including a gym and fitness center. Neighborhood access to the amenity spaces will be available to Guilford residents. The 3rd through 5th floors consist of hotel rooms and resort condominiums. A boardwalk is proposed along the entire marina frontage, and the marina will retain the existing 140 boat slips. Primary access to the building is from Guilford Road, which leads to a surface parking lot with 100 parking spaces. Next slide, please. Building 5 is located along the shoreline of Lake Simcoe, adjacent to the South of Marina Canal at 269 Maple Grove Drive. The proposed building is a block of 4-story seasonal townhouses containing 5 units with direct boat slip connections. There are 5 parking stalls and 7 tandem parking stalls proposed. There's also a green space area with a gazebo facing the lake. Next slide, please. The last area is a parkette located along the shoreline of the lake directly north of the Marina Canal at 257 Beach Road. This is a 1,500 square meter area that will include a playground and gazebo and will be designed for passive recreation for use by the resort and community members, but not the general public. Next slide, please. We have made some updates to the proposal as a result of the neighborhood meeting held last year. Building 1, which is a 7-story condo building, has been updated to include increased building step backs at the upper levels to reduce the perception of height. We have also increased the amenity space areas for the buildings, including a new rooftop amenity space area. Again, all the amenity areas will include neighborhood access to Guilford residents. In terms of Building 4, the hotel resort building, it has been updated to also include additional building step backs, as well as reduction in height along the eastern wing facing the lake. Additionally, Building 5, the townhouse block, has been adjusted for increased setbacks from the water's edge. Next slide, please. At the last meeting, I know there were a lot of questions and comments regarding traffic, water, and wastewater treatment, as well as the environment. Since that meeting, we've completed a large number of reports, studies, and drawings, including a traffic impact and parking study, a full functional servicing report, which details the proposed servicing solutions and state-of-the-art wastewater treatment solution previously mentioned. And we have submitted an environmental impact study for the entire area. These reports are currently under review by town staff, the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, as well as the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, and Parks. Next slide, please. As I noted in the previous slide, we've completed many reports, studies, and drawings that are currently being reviewed. I won't list each one here. However, I wanted to ensure everyone that we are thoroughly studying all aspects of the proposal and are committed to working with the community, town, and all agencies through the planning process. Unfortunately, I'm not an architect, engineer, or ecologist, so I can't speak to the technicalities of the studies, but I have brought along members from my project team that will be happy to answer any questions or comments regarding the studies following the presentation. Next slide, please. These next few slides are some renderings of the proposal taken from various locations. This first one is a view of the marina from Guilford Road. Next slide, please. This is a view from Beach Road looking at the proposed hotel building. Next slide, please. Lastly, this is a view of the resort condominium building from Guilford Road. Next slide, please. In conclusion, I wanted to reiterate that we are committed to working with the community and address any and all concerns. Through this development, we hope to create a sense of place and build a space for the community to enjoy throughout the year. We believe that the proposal will bring new tourism and employment opportunities to Guilford, as well as many new amenities that are not currently available. The proposal will facilitate year-round recreational activities for the neighborhood to enjoy and represents positive change and advancement to Guilford. Overall, we hope the development will serve the well-being and quality of life for the community. Next slide, please. That's it for my presentation. I want to thank you for your time and welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Galvin. Questions or comments from members of council, please? We'll start with the ward councilor, Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Worship. I respectfully ask and thank your Worship and my fellow councillors for a bit of latitude, as I do have a number of questions and comments that I would like to be part of the record for this application. I've sent most of these into staff already last weekend, and clearly I don't expect any answers tonight. Again, nothing is to be decided tonight, but now that this ambitious vision is an official application, this is the opportunity for me and the public to comment and ask questions for clarification. The presentations and staff report have raised some of my questions and concerns already, but I do wonder about the process because of the applicant's need to extract 2 properties from our shores bylaw to even consider this whole application first. How is it appropriate, as it was stated they want to work with the community, but I'm not sure of the impact of the community neighborhood meeting last year because nothing has virtually changed in regards to any comments made then. To justify a placemaking destination, this application is proposing to become a true resort, such as Friday Harbor. But Friday Harbor does not have the massing or any heights over 6 stories, like the 8+ stories being proposed here, especially in such a confined space. Friday Harbor is on 600 acres, not just 11 acres, and is fully serviced. In the justification for this proposal, it is to be a 3-season resort residence, but we know that that's not possible or viable, as we learned from Friday Harbor, since those purchasers couldn't get mortgage financing for non-permanent units. So these would have to be full-time residential condos. With that, what is the value of a 3-season natural environment assessment? If it were to be 3 seasons only, as proposed, do all the units close for 3 months? And how is that determined or regulated? I ask, what is the impact to our lake-based drinking water system when they're pumping 113,000 liters per day into a communal septic system? Is there no impact to Lake Simcoe by not treating those 41 million liters per year and returning it to the lake rather than dumping effluent into a tile bed? How can there be no environmental impact from that much effluent being pumped into the protected greenbelt area that is outside of the settlement area? Is there any concern that the supplemental study stated that the assimilative capacity study has not and cannot be undertaken because the effluent will be discharged into the subsurface, where it will eventually dilute into the groundwater on its way to the lake? How can we guarantee that this system will not possibly affect the 55 wells within the area if you can't study it? I read the references to the places to grow and provincial policy statement and the justification about well-planned infrastructure, and that private communal water systems, wastewater systems, are used for the opportunities to improve existing systems and supported by strategies for water conservation. Does this proposal achieve any of that? In reading the Ministry of Municipal Housing's policy statements, they state that privately operated communal systems without a responsible public authority overseeing them have a greater likelihood of failure and rarely have the funds to remediate those problems. Therefore, any communal sewage system would require a responsibility agreement with the town or with us ultimately designing, operating, and maintaining the system for the benefit of the development. So I ask, is it good planning for the town would now consider getting into the communal septic system business to benefit a private developer to sell 90 condos? How is that justifiable for the rest of the taxpayers in Innisfil? Our maximum building height is 11 meters, but even the proposed boat storage shed surpasses that by 3.5 meters. And this proposal is asking for almost 3 times the permitted height, making these the tallest structures in all of Innisfil. the visual impact of a 90-foot tall building will surpass the 50-year-old tree line in Guilford by more than double. As shown in the shadow impact study, just the townhome shadows will shade about 6 existing properties at times for about half the year. I wonder, how can the December 21st study have a smaller shadow at 3 p.m. than at 2 p.m. in the pictures 7 and 8? Why does the geotechnical report have such limited hours of data, with some stopping at 3 p.m.? I've sent it to staff and I've proven that just after 5 p.m. in March, someone around my height, 6'2", has a shadow over 70 feet long. So a 90-foot tall building would cast about a 1,000-foot shadow, stretching to the lake in the afternoon and block every home on the south side of Guilford Road in the morning, likely all the way to the aerodrome. Which brings up a question. If these are to be comprehensive justification reports, where in these is any reference to the federally regulated aerodrome and or its possible flight paths addressed, since it's just up the street from these proposed structures? 269 Maple Grove, in the reports, the entrance canal I see is zoned as EP. Is that correct? I read that there will be no changes to the channel, but how can this canal accommodate 5 in-water boathouses without an increase to the width to permit docking and marine traffic in an already very tight area? With 5-unit townhome condos proposed right next to a single attached dwelling, which is actually on a much larger property right next door, how does this fit into the community planning permit system for zoned waterfront? Building E, the launch area, I have concerns about the setbacks shown from the roadway and fence line based just on the renderings, as they appear to be right on the property line and on the water's edge. I wonder the practicality of 2 47-foot high 3-story boat storage buildings, since sailboats can't be racked. Where do the sailboats go? How does the natural heritage feature south of the homes on Guilford Road just end at the property line? The property to the south of the Woodfield lot is not parks and open space as it's shown. It is actually EP land according to my zoning information. The 276 Woodfield building shows indoor parking for 28 cars, but in the rendering, it would be impossible to get out of the last 2 parking spots unless you were back all the way out, which seems dangerous to me. Almost half of the Woodfield property is agricultural and EP land, backing onto more EP land. Is it good planning to build a sewage system on EP and wooded wetlands, and or to have boat storage on key heritage features for 165 residential units, plus 530 square meters of retail and commercial usage? I wonder about the impact to the residential property at 1203 Guilford Road with the proposed new entranceway right next to their existing driveway. If the report recommends the need to pave that shoulder on Guilford Road to accommodate vehicles with boat trailers, does that not have an impact to traffic flow as well? How many people would be queuing up just for those spots? I don't believe that parking for 455 vehicles has no impact to this community. If we get 100 or 200 people parking in town just to go ice fishing, Bylaw is going crazy dealing with those calls about them. 1 space per boat slip seems very low, as marinas are generally a social spot, and being deficient of 49 spots for the hotel is also concerning. I wonder, was it captured in the traffic study that they would have to park around the block at the boat storage lot and then get valet shuttled back? I didn't see any parking allocated for any of the staff at any of these proposed amenities either. With the traffic study, I see that the study was conducted on November 26, 2020. That was American Thanksgiving, where many like myself might have been actually watching football from noon till 9 p.m. and not driving around. That population growth analysis uses 2.5% increase per year, but this proposal would add 500 more residents to the existing 1,100. So is that not a 45% increase in 1 block? I wonder if I'm reading this correctly. As I see in that study, the beach road can accommodate 400 vehicles per hour per lane. I don't even know how that's even possible. Would that not mean 1 car every 10 seconds in each direction to and from a dead end road? On Guilford Road, they state the estimate of 204 new vehicle trips during peak rush hours, and that has no impact. I don't understand how. Is that, again, not 1 additional vehicle every 17 seconds? In the planning justification, it states that access to transit is provided, reducing car reliance. I don't understand how else does anyone get to Guilford without a vehicle? What new access to transit is being proposed by the developer? I wonder, how do I get to the Lakeside Parkette? Do I have to walk through the proposed parking lot and down Maple Grove, which in the renderings is listed, but it's actually Beach Road? Now, why is the single family residence at 260 Beach Road just labeled as building in the renderings? I also see a new dock connection that runs in front of that property. I wonder how you build a dock in front of somebody else's private property. What are the easements required in front of building B, which appear to be in the waterway? I also see that there's a right of way in front of Maple Grove. I wonder who that it's for, and if there are any other deeded rights to the neighboring properties to the waterway or dock areas. In the noise study, it states that road traffic noise was acoustically insignificant due to existing traffic volumes and not considered further. I wonder, what about the impact of the other 204 cars per hour that's proposed during peak hours? It is stated that there is no impact from rail noises, but we all know that trains are going to be running every 15 minutes eventually. And again, there is a federally registered aerodrome just a block away. As for placemaking, I question, is it good planning if you have to change our newest official plan, skirt the shoreline planning process, and rezone a hamlet into a high-density commercial operation, which grossly overachieves the official plan mandate of commercial uses sufficient to support the convenience needs of the existing 1,100 residents in the hamlet of Guilford? With all the correspondence as well as the petitions submitted, it is clear that our benefiting residents do not want us to change all the rules just to try to make this fit, because it truly does not fit in Guilford and does not make Guilford a complete community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor. I know that you've submitted all those comments to staff, so they will be addressed in the report, but I will ask Mr. Galvin if he wants to comment on any of that now.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's probably best for us to respond in a written statement, since there are quite a number of questions and comments there. So we'll look to do that in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Worship. Apologies, that's a hard act to follow. Councillor Nicol did his homework quite thoroughly. I have far less questions now due to his due diligence. Just a couple of them initially. When we're talking about the seasonal designation, two terms came up, seasonal and fractional. Now, my understanding is fractional is shared accommodations at different points in the year. Is that a way to circumvent the 365 rule sort of idea? That's something that comes to mind. The square footage of the parkette, when I was looking at the blueprints, it falls under 3% of the entire lottage, and whereas under policy 7.4 it's supposed to be 5. Are we looking at a cash in lieu? And if so, is there any way that once this goes through, or should it go through, pardon me, that we can increase the green space? And a comment that was made during the presentation, the parkette was not for general public use. I'm not sure if I heard that correctly. If we can clarify that, it would be appreciated, because the idea of putting green space after disrupting people's homes and shoreline and say that you're not allowed on doesn't seem to sit well with me very well at all. And lastly, on page 5 of the report, they were talking about the septic systems and the water main. Now, the potential for 700 meters of new water main just to service it alone, how is it going to be put in? There's no reference to the location. There's no reference to if the road is being done, who's going to be responsible for the rehabilitation of it if it goes under the main road. Like there's a lot of things up in the air here, and it just doesn't. I'd like a lot more clarification before I even think about moving forward with this at all. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Again, I'll ask Mr. Galvin if he wants to respond at all, or leave it for the formal report.
Yeah, I'm happy to respond to some of those questions. We'll definitely respond to all of them in our report. And again, we have put together a very lengthy submission to the town, and it is in its infancy in being reviewed. So there are studies that that address a lot of those concerns, especially with servicing. I do have the engineers on my team here to answer any specific questions, but I think because it's so early on that we're just looking at what potential solutions are at this point, and are happy to work with the town to work through all those questions regarding what will happen with the road and what happens with the how the pipe will work, those questions. In terms of the seasonal occupation, we are still exploring what the different options are. You're right. The fractional ownership would be something along the lines of like a timeshare. We are keeping all the options open because there are pros and cons to each one, and we want to bring those to the town to see what they think is best suited for the site. At current, we think that a kind of blockout day or month would work best, but we're still exploring all those options. But we're definitely committed to keeping it seasonal for sure, because it's really the only way that the resort will be able to function from a servicing perspective.
Thank you, Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I think Councillor Nicol did a great job on reviewing the site, so I'm not going to ponder some of I had a lot of the same questions that he had, so I think I'll just concentrate on a couple that may not have been in there. One was I guess the density of the site and around the hardscape versus softscapes. It's either buildings or parking on site, and so there seems to be no green space on this at all. And so that leads me to a point in the EIS study talking about stormwater, saying that they're going to be increasing the impervious areas from 32 to 91%, and that suggests that that there is going to be a lot of paving, and that they're going to deal with this through stormwater and infiltration trenches and that kind of stuff. So I am a bit concerned that adds a lot to stormwater management problems, and then the maintenance of infiltration trenches, because we know that they get contaminated over time. So I'm really quite concerned about the amount of hardscape that's in this site. It's just it just overwhelms the entire site. It's either building or parking. So I'm a bit concerned about that. The other piece had to do with the seasonal operation of it. We've learned from Friday Harbor that doesn't make any sense at all, because you can't get a mortgage and they can't make money. We all know that Friday Harbor condominium skyrocketed right after we made it a full-time occupation. And so if there's wanting to attract investors to this, that I think they'll learn from Friday Harbor that doesn't work unless it's a full-time occupation. So I'm a bit concerned about the seasonal operation of the site. Again, what goes along with that is the Airbnb problems that we have. Last but not least is around the wastewater. They say that we're going to be using an innovative wastewater treatment system. I'm a bit concerned because there's no description in terms of what they might be using, unless this has, if it's only like a secondary treatment and then pumping it into trenches that go into the wetland. That's just not acceptable. It's either going to be tertiary right up front, and it's got to reverse osmosis. That water has to be clean enough to drink if it's going to be going into a wetland. Otherwise, we're just going to get phosphorus buildup, and it's going to destroy the quality of the water in the wetland immediate around that site. So they're most of my comments there, other than, like I said, Councillor Nicol did a great job, so I'm not going to repeat on all of what he said, but I have some really grave concerns just with the overall density of the site, the height of the site. And then last but not least, I should have mentioned, I almost forgot, was that one thing we learned from Friday Harbor is that they have 600 acres, but they only have a few hundred meters of waterfront And we know that creates a problem with the community because all those visitors end up going to our public beaches, which they can't handle. We've got an ongoing battle between private beach and public beach right next door to each other in Friday Harbor. So I'm not too sure where this development thinks that their clientele are going to go. In terms of swimming in Lake Simcoe, it just doesn't seem that the waterfront is even large enough to handle that. And then if that's going to be the case, then we're going to end up having these people going to our public beaches, which are already overpacked with outside visitors, and our own residents can't use the public beaches. So that's a major concern in terms of, for me, is that lack of shoreline that this development has, just like Friday Harbor. It creates all sorts of problems down the road, and I would like to see how they're going to address that. I don't need them to answer any questions right now. I'm sure that this will all be addressed down the road, so I'm not expecting any answers. But I just, again, repeating that a lot of what Councillor Nicol had mentioned were questions I had, but just a few extra ones I wanted to add my voice to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Any other comments, questions from Council? Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too think that Councillor Nichols did his homework, and as always, Councillor Waters asked the right questions. My biggest concern is the in-house sewage treatment. I just can't see that. It's been tried by other developers who wanted to do it, and we refused. I just can't see it being treated any other way than through our facilities. Friday Harbor had to spend millions of dollars around the pipe up and building pump houses to service Big Bay Point, and whether they wanted it or not, it's there. And I think, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It has been suggested by other developers and other developments, and refuses. So I just can't see that. And what concerns me too is where they want, our shores. I mean, to make an exempt there, what are we going to do? Keep exempting every time that somebody wants to do it? Then we might as well scrap that entire bylaw, because once we start that, it's just going to keep on going. So I have a big problem with both of those. I have a lot more to say, but I think Councillor Nichols and Councillor Waters said it all. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Van Berkel. Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you very much. I won't comment on the other comments that our councillors have made. I think the biggest concern for me is the height. We keep talking, and in the report, it talks about this being a hamlet residential area. And yes, it does have a commercial tourism zoning allowed. But when you have high density with 7-story buildings and this large of a scale, I think it overshadows and it does not complement a hamlet residential. And I'm just surprised at a request for 7 stories. We only have that currently zoned along Innisfil Beach Road, allowing the commercial on the bottom and residential on the top. And I understand that this, you need to, anybody investing needs to create a project that is financially viable. But I just think that the comments in the residents are correct. They want to protect an area and they welcome improvements, but there are improvements that build upon what is unique to the area and complementary: the boating, the boardwalks, dining, parks, enjoying the lake for everyone, not denying the residents who live in the area to be able to enjoy the lake themselves while experiencing just the pain. So I think for me, it's looking at the height of these buildings and the scale of the plan is just a concern for me. So I just like to leave those comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? I'll go ahead, Councillor Payne. You're still on mute, Councillor Payne.
Okay. All right. I thank everybody else for all those comments, because what I have in mind is pretty much the same, but I'm just going to read it anyway. As Innisfil is a growing community at this time, and as members of council, it is our job to see that growth continues as expected. With that being said, it has to take place in locations that are favorable for growth, which means access to main arteries that lead to healthcare, shopping, travel, etc. Planning to build condominiums close to the lake in a small hamlet, in my view, which is my view, is absolutely ludicrous. We as council make decisions that are favorable to the environment, and this condo, to me, it's not favorable. I mean, it's nice. It has a lot of potential, but I just can't see it working where it is. It's too close to the lake, and something like this, I think, would be great further up towards the highway. But I don't have the feel on this one. It's a great idea, but I can't see it working in that location. So I'm just not in favor of this one at all. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents.
Thank you, Councillor Payne.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I had one quick question for you, Mr. Galvin. You mentioned in your remarks that that the resort had to be seasonal due to the servicing, and I just wonder if you could expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So that has to do with the wastewater treatment facility, and there has been a number of questions that have come up regarding it. So I think it is probably best that I pass this question along to our expert, Suzanne, who is from Tatum Engineering, to let her kind of explain how the system works and what really goes into it and comes out of it. So I'll pass it over to Suzanne, if that's okay.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Troxler.
Madam Mayor, thank you. You can hear me. Maybe I will start with answering your question first about the seasonal occupancy. Basically, if the resort or the development was a residential development rather than a commercial or seasonal development, then the Ministry of the Environment would require that the facility, that there be a municipal responsibility agreement that the town would take over the system if there were a problem. And the town staff has clearly indicated that the town of Innisfil is not in the business of operating private sewage treatment systems. So in order to, so that's why, so this has to be a commercial seasonal operation so that we do not need to get into a municipal responsibility agreement. So
thank you.
That answer that. I have the floor, so I could also answer some of the previous questions regarding the sewage system. I wanted to say that what is being proposed is a tertiary sewage treatment plant, a mechanical plant using the membrane bioreactor system, which uses membrane filters to achieve a really high level of contaminant removal. Membrane bioreactors are the systems that are used at the Collingwood sewage treatment plant, and that's being proposed for the expansion of the Innisfil sewage treatment plant. It is a very high level of treatment, and the reason that we are proposing that is so that we can achieve the level of treatment that's necessary to protect the environment, to protect the quality of the lake water, to protect groundwater, to protect the nearby drinking water wells. We are fully aware of the location, of the proximity to the lake and to the nearby residents. So the whole proposal is geared to that, to make sure that we don't have any detrimental effect on those things. And we know that the ministry will review this application and they will check and make sure that we meet the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan policies and that we meet their strict requirements. We are going to reduce the amount of phosphorus that is currently discharged to the lake from the existing Marina septic system. And we achieve that because it's not a conventional septic system that's being proposed. Instead of a septic tank, what we have now is a sewage treatment plant that removes those contaminants before it's discharged to the disposal beds. So I'm hoping that helps a little bit to explain, the difference. It's not a septic system. It is a state-of-the-art sewage treatment plant with a disposal bed designed to not have any of the impacts that residents, and rightly so, have concerns about.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Troxler. I appreciate that. So one of the things I'd like staff to address in their thought back to us is in regards to whether or not it's seasonal or full-time residential. If there was a failure, or if there was if it was a communal system, we had one proposed for Stroud. Originally, the Friday Harbor, the very original Big Bay Point proposal was also communal. And what am I trying to get at here? Okay, so in Friday Harbor, we made the rule, the 300 days a year or whatever it was rule. But we wanted, after it's built and it's there, you want it to be successful. And you don't want it to be run down, and you don't want it to be left derelict. So you do what you have to do in order for that to happen. So in this case, even if it were seasonal, a communal system goes in. And the reason that MECP does that is because they don't want anyone moved out of their home, their principal or primary home. We have a communal system at Tanger Outlet Mall. If something happens and that system fails and they declare bankruptcy, it's nobody's losing their home. So the idea behind MECP requiring this agreement with municipalities is so that if there's a failure, that those people, if it's their primary residence, they'll still be in their primary residence, and the municipality will be responsible for taking over. But I asked council or future councils, if this were to be built and there was a failure in the communal system, would we not feel a responsibility in order to make this viable, to take that over? I think whether or not we were legally binded to do it, I think that's where we would end up having to go, because we wouldn't want it just sitting there derelict. So that's just a thought that I had that I wanted staff to think through and address on what would happen if. And so with that, we've had good discussion, but the public have been very, very, very patient with us. So we'll now hear from those members of the public who have questions regarding the proposed amendments before council votes on receiving the report and all the comments provided during this meeting. The speaker order is now on the screen. So when it is your turn, I'll ask you, you'll have 5 minutes to express your questions and concerns. And because there is so many people, I would ask everybody to please be respectful with the 5 minutes. One of the worst parts of my job is having to cut people off. So please don't make me do that, but I want everybody to have a turn. So I will. If I do have to cut you off after 5 minutes, then you're more than welcome to turn your camera off and wait for everyone else to have a turn, and then raise your hand and we'll give you another opportunity. So town staff will be capturing your comments as we progress. Although if you're on the live stream, you can probably only see those of us who have our video cameras on. There's a lot of staff here watching, paying attention, taking notes. So please know that we will all be listening hard, not only council, but also members of staff. So once all speakers on the list have spoken, I'll ask any additional speakers. At that time, turn your video on, put up your hand if you think you need more time. During the meeting, once you've provided your comment, you may remain in the meeting, but please do not turn on your audio or video back on. You may also leave the meeting and watch on the town's YouTube live channel, whichever you prefer. I'll now ask the first person on the list, Anita Moore, to please turn on your video and audio and state your name for the record and continue. Welcome, Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good evening. My name's Anita Moore and I live on Parkway Drive in Guilford. Guilford, as you know, is a hamlet, and by the OP's definition, growth will be limited to infill that maintains local character. And here you have before you this evening a development request for a 74 unit and 75 room resort with 11 condo suites, 5 townhouses, which would or could bring 300 people into the hamlet of Guilford. Think of that infiltration into this community. We've already experienced overcrowding at the road end park on Guilford Road and people taking over the dock with their various rental boats at the launch site at the end of Shore Acres. And as for added green space, the developer only proposes a 1,500 square meter parquet as part of the development. But put that into context, that's about 1/3 of an acre, a very small parcel of land for the number of people the resort could bring in. So where do all these people spill over to? The development is surrounded by mostly single-story homes in a well-established area. People, traffic, and service vehicles will, with the exception of Guilford Road, have to make use of roadways that are narrow neighborhood roads without sidewalks. Some of these roads, and particularly Beach Road, have homes that are extremely close to the roadside. Traffic studies were done in shoulder seasons and are not at all reflective of the summer or winter weekday, and particularly the weekend traffic, with many vehicles pulling trailers, boats, snowmobiles, and ATVs, and pedestrians making their way to the lake. The area is already congested at many times during the year. The private sewage treatment plant and septic beds being proposed are state-of-the-art, as we heard from their planner, yet with outflows being directed to the environmentally protected lands to the south and then onto the lake. As per the consultant's report, the test holes were dry in this area, but we know that in the spring, those EP lands are flooded for 2 or 3 months, depending on the snow melt and the rainfall level. And I do have recent photos that I've taken in there, so I will send those on to the clerk's office for the record. At a neighborhood meeting that we had with the developer, the presenters were asked about odors emanating from the plant, and the response was there would be no odor during normal operations. So the question is, what's normal? I was glad that In-Services had commented on the fact that our existing water services was not designed to service a development like this. In fact, their 2018 Master Servicing Plan update talks about our current fire flow limitations, which include potential effects on other serviced areas. In the text of the developer's OP, draft OP, they used the wording complete community, which is from the Places to Grow document. They used it at least 4 times, stating that this development is going to assist Guilford in becoming a complete community. A developer's idea of what constitutes a complete community is a far cry from what the residents of Guilford want and what Innisfil's planning documents set out for the area. And the Places to Grow document also states that planning must occur in a rational and strategic way. So for every supportive study they present, there will be good planning and engineering-based reasons as to why a development of this scope must not be approved for the area. And to wrap up, also taken from their draft OP, is a sentence that I'd like to paraphrase. The proposed development will bring significant growth and economic development to the Guilford area. And that's the problem. They themselves present the development as significant growth. And we know that this is an area in Innisfil that's not designated for that. This is a hamlet, and development should be of an infill type with small scale local commercial uses that will maintain Guilford's local character. And Madam Mayor, I will follow that up with some written comments. So thank you very much.
I'm sorry, thank you. That was very good, and thank you for being so respectful with our time. Next, I would ask Angie Body, please, to turn on her video and audio, and welcome to this public meeting.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council and guests. My name is Angie Body. I am a resident of Beach Road, directly to the east of this proposed development. For the last 14 months, I've been working with a small group of volunteers to organize a response to the application, and we have found overwhelming community opposition to the resort proposal. We have submitted a petition to the clerk with 270 signatures opposing this development. I can't say that everyone in the community is opposed, but I can say that everyone that I have spoken to believes that this will result in irreparable damage to our community, quality of life, and our lake. Further, we have hired a planner and an ecologist for an independent review and opinion on the proposal, and that will be submitted to town staff upon its completion. I could talk for hours about how this development does not fit Guilford, but I only have 5 minutes. So I'm going to focus on the infiltration of resort visitors to the area. 160 suites, 5 4-story townhouses with conservative occupancy of 2 to 4 persons per suite equals about 300 to 600 people. And add in the 140 boaters, their guests, visitors to the commercial businesses, and the parkette resort staff. It's not outrageous to suggest that this development could bring upwards of 800 people. This is a huge number of people to be dropped in the middle of a well-established residential community, and the area does not have the amenities, space, or infrastructure to support it. There is no beach space included in the plan. Resort guests will inevitably head to the small Guilford beach, and that will obliterate its residential use and makes a mockery of our land and lakes plan. As it is, with the lack of facilities on that site, we have witnessed out-of-town visitors using ditches as washrooms, and it is a shameful state after they leave. The lack of physical barriers between the parkette at 257 Beach and neighboring residential lawns will invite unwelcome trespass on our private properties and subject us to unwanted noise and activity. Marina patrons already use our private docks, and we are met with derision and profanities when we ask them to leave. Even if a barrier were added, it would block our views to the southern portion of the lake. The rendering of the canal bordering the property at 260 Beach Road is a complete misrepresentation, as are many of the renders. The green space shown has been appropriated from the resident and is not owned by the marina. The 5-foot space available for a boardwalk would further block boat slip access deeded to 260 Beach. And without this access to the parkette, resort guests will either use the service entrance on Beach Road or have to walk down Guilford Road, neither of which have sidewalks, and no sidewalks are included in this plan. This creates dangerous conditions with the addition of commercial and staff traffic in and out of this proposed resort service entrance. As it is, Beach Road is not wide enough for our new garbage trucks to operate on our street, and I don't see how it can be widened to accommodate pedestrians, more cars, and commercial traffic safely. Despite the setbacks, the buildings are physically imposing and will surround and tower over our homes. The hotel suites, which will no doubt boast spectacular lake views, will look directly into my bedroom window and onto my lawn, which sacrifices my privacy. I call into question the accuracy of the shadowing, traffic, and noise studies and lack of assessment of light pollution for a brightly lit resort. I have so many other points to make about the development, and particularly the gamble of an on-site sewage facility to clean commercial grade waste at a time when councillors of the Lake Simcoe watershed are asking the federal government for funding to protect the health of our lake. Many of these points have been or will be covered by other deputations tonight and our councillors and our hired planner. So now it's time for my emotional pitch. Guilford has a rich history, and we're a close-knit community. Our identity is deeply entwined to our designation as a hamlet, a small, sleepy, quiet lakeside community so close, but so far removed from the city. This development doesn't only threaten our safety, our lake, and our way of life. The influx of people and the overpowering physical structures of the resort would rip apart the fabric that binds this community together. It is about so much more than what could be permissible by the letter of the law. It's about who we are. My family has owned the property at 261 Beach Road for more than 65 years, when both sets of my grandparents purchased summer cottages here in the 1950s. My parents played together as children on the shores of Lake Simcoe more than a decade before they started dating and got married. I learned how to swim, how to fish, how to canoe on Lake Simcoe. And my story isn't the only one like this. Guilford means something to the people that live here. Some of us are new and some of us have been here for decades. And one thing is clear, our neighbors have become our family and we take care of each other. To be clear, we are not anti-growth, but this resort is not the type of change or advancement that we want, we need, or that we can support. Mayor Dolan and councillors, I ask you to carefully and closely examine how wrong this development is for our community, and I implore you to act in the best interest of our hamlet. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Boddy. I understand that Jesse Fex was unable to speak this evening, but I just want to double check before I pass that name. And I'm seeing no video come on, so we'll go to Lena Lischuk. Is Lena on the call? If people aren't able to, for whatever reason, speak this evening, if they're having technical difficulties, please know that your voice can still be heard. You are more than welcome to send in your comments by, send in your comments in writing. And next is Lynne Lord.
Thank you very much. As you say, my name is Lynne Lord, and I'm speaking today because my home is at the corner lot of 273 Woodfield Road and Nesbitt Road, which is directly in front of the proposed three-story boat storage facilities and the septic treatment area. I'm also going to be right in front of the 7-story building and directly adjacent to the proposed Marina Services building. Furthermore, I do have a deeded right-of-way for park lot B, C, and A, which is the where the proposed marina development is for the mixed-use hotel resort building, the resort condo suites, the landscaped parkette, and the 5-story townhouses. So due to my location, this proposal will obviously have a severe impact on my life, and there are many reasons for me to speak up tonight. A lot of them have been mentioned already, but I'm going to limit my topics as much as I can here. The first big one is well water. I have a dug well. It's about 20-25 feet deep on the west side of my property, so the Woodfield Road side, right in front of the proposed buildings. And the construction and ongoing operation of facilities and the septic system there potentially will have a severe impact on both the quality and quantity of water in my well. So I'm wondering if I have to hook up to town water to avoid this. This is a huge financial cost for me for hookup and ongoing costs every month for water that I would never have otherwise had to pay for. The second issue I have, which has been mentioned by several people, is the size. The sheer height and density of the buildings in this proposal is far too large for the marina property. Basically, it's just building and parking lot, as we've heard. Comparable marina developments of this size have actual waterfront park areas, trails, larger community amenities such as sidewalks, skiing, public transit, etc. But I don't see how this fits in with the Lake Simcoe Land and Lake Plan, or for Guilford for that matter. The Land and Lake Plan states that new parks are still required in Guilford. That little tiny little parkette is I just don't see how that's going to work. And the town land plan objective is that the land plan will provide improvement recommendations. It will, I'm so nervous. The land plan will provide improvement in Guilford and recommendations to public spaces within the town of Innisfil that will improve the enjoyment for residents and guests. So in an environmentally sustainable way. So in contradiction in terms of green space, this marina development proposes a very small parkette and actively cites green space. It also has, in several times during meetings, they've mentioned the Guilford Beach as a destination for marina guests and visitors. And I really don't think the Guilford Beach is a sufficient space for their guests. The number of people using this vacation property will be using Innisfil infrastructure such as emergency services, roads. If it's not a permanent residence, will the marina be financially supporting the town of Innisfil for all these additional costs and burdens? And for me personally, just in terms of size, this three-tier boat storage is going to be right in front of my house. And there's just going to be constant light, noise infiltration, and shade, and blocking my sunsets completely forevermore. Something else that was brought up is flooding. I'm really concerned about flooding damage on my property during construction and after due to the runoff. The flooding, it can impact my well, everybody else's well around here, septic, property, trees and gardens, septic systems. And what is the 100-year flood plan? You know, it happens, right? With all that pavement and concrete, what about that? Because we're directly in line. Everything flows towards the lake around here. So our little neighborhood is directly behind all of that. The septic treatment, I think that's been covered. Excuse me. Sorry, I have a cold. By everybody else that spoke today, but I do worry about pollution in general from this additional sewage, the sheer amount of effluents that they're planning to pump through there. Where are these pipes going to be located? How are they going to get the pipes from?
We have about 5 minutes left, or 5 seconds left.
Okay.
If you want to wind up.
I can wind. So I'm just worried about light, noise, vehicles, garbage, boats, etc. And I recognize that Cooks Bay needs to expand or improve on their existing buildings. And I agree that would be lovely, but I think it should be an appropriate height and size for our little hamlet community. And thanks for putting up with my nervous speaking.
Absolutely, did a great job. And if you want,
okay.
If you have more to say, please hang on. And after everyone's had a turn, we can call you back. Elizabeth Fernandez, please.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor, and public. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Council for the opportunity to speak on this matter. My name is Elizabeth Fernandez, and I'm speaking on behalf of my family as owners of 265 Beach Road. While there's no question that this development will have a major impact on our community, as we have heard today, tonight, I will speak about specific concerns with regard to the access point currently being proposed to Building B from Beach Road. This section of Beach Road is a dead-end street consisting of 11 homes, most of which enjoy direct access to Cooks Bay. Over the past 30+ years, we have owned this property, and certainly long before as well, the only traffic experienced in this stretch of road was from our immediate neighbors coming and going from their homes. This has made it a very quiet and safe community. Adding a third access point to Building B would greatly disturb the use and enjoyment of our Beach Road properties unnecessarily, as the building already has 2 other access points from Guilford Road. In contrast to Beach Road, Guilford Road has always been used as an access point to Cooks Bay Marina for both ingress and egress. Vehicles accessing the property from Guilford Road, a busier thoroughfare, has been a pre-existing feature of this community. Increased traffic, as described, notwithstanding, of course. A careful read of the traffic impact study produced by Tatham Engineering raises some questions and concerns for us Beach Road residents. Section 2.1.1 describes Beach Road as a local road, which is correct, having a 50 km/h speed limit, which is incorrect, and that would have a vehicle per hour per lane capacity of 400, which is absolutely absurd. This section of Beach Road is a dead end. The only traffic here is from one of the 11 homeowners and their guests. Section 3.2.1 further acknowledges that little or no growth is anticipated for this section of Beach Road, as it is already built up and occupied by existing private homes. Adding unnecessary access point would add traffic to an existing community, diminishing the quiet enjoyment of the current residents, reducing safety without bringing any benefit whatsoever. Section 4.3 discloses that the study has not taken into account or even considered the impact on Beach Road from the added access point, simply describing it as a, quote, minor internal intersection that will operate without issue, end quote. This will not be a minor internal intersection in relation to the existing vehicular traffic in use. It will certainly not operate without issue when the proposed access point will include commercial trucks making deliveries and garbage trucks taking garbage away on an ongoing operational basis. In addition to the obvious increase in use and traffic, maneuvering large trucks in the space will bring additional unwanted and unnecessary noise pollution, garbage odors, and other disruptions to our street. No one in this community has ever been awoken by a rumble of garbage trucks or the intrusive beeping of reversing commercial vehicles as often as we are now to accept. Never have the residents nor their children or their grandchildren had to worry about the dangers of constant commercial traffic flow at their front door. Section 5.3 in the sightline assessments acknowledges that with regard to Beach Road, its function is to provide access to adjacent properties, not to carry traffic. Further stating that, quote, applying the intersection slight distance requirements to this road would be onerous and unnecessary, end quote. The traffic impact study has conveniently omitted a full and proper analysis regarding Beach Road, seemingly taking much for granted while relying on the notion that because this is a dead-end street with virtually zero traffic, that adding a new intersection to a large commercial development would have zero impact. This is ridiculous. In closing, the idea of adding a third access point for commercial vehicle traffic to Building B from a quiet residential dead-end street when there will be two other access points from the main road that have been serving as an access point to the property for years must be rethought, as well as other issues regarding the plan. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fernandez. Next, I will ask Miguel Calabi. Is Mikal, maybe I've said your name wrong, and if so, I apologize. Number 7 on the list, Mikal Calabi. Perhaps not, so we'll go to number 8, which is Mark Gray. Mark Gray.
Yes, good morning, good evening, Mayor Dolan and councilors, Mr. Riley, Mr. Galvin. My name is Mark Gray. I live on Beach Road across from the proposed entrance to the hotel. First, I would like to acknowledge Indigenous territory we live on with respect. I'm here because I disagree with the proposed changes to Cooks Bay Marina lands and changes to the official plan, zoning, bylaw, and draft plan of condominium. I am concerned that this proposal is too large for this area and will negatively impact the wildlife, plant life, water table, our well water, Lake Simcoe, and our enjoyment of a peaceful, quiet residential area. I'm concerned with safety issues because of the potential for gatherings of large numbers of people. There have been problems at Friday Harbor and at Cooks Bay Marina. I'm concerned with lack of sidewalks. The Ontario Planning Act, as mentioned in the proposal, states promotion of development that is designed to be sustainable, to support public transit, and to be oriented to pedestrians. I could see no sidewalks proposed on local roads such as Woodfield that run through the marina. The proposal states the proposed development will utilize available municipal services and proposes to expand municipal water availability to neighboring residents. This is a grand gesture, but I was told I will never see town water on Beach Road. Amendment number 20 to the official plan for the town of Innisfil, Part B, page 4 states, access to transit is provided, and the proposal introduces a variety of services to the Guilford area, reducing car reliance. All of this contributes to well-designed spaces and contribution to the creation of vibrant, diverse, and complete communities. Does this mean that residents have access to this resort? How does a 5-story hotel and a 7-story condo complete our community? Page 4.2 states provincial policy statement, PPS, the protection of the environment and resources, including natural resources, for example, wetlands and woodlands, farmland and water, and the appropriate transportation, water, sewer, and other infrastructure needed to accommodate current and future needs. I'm concerned that a septic system will not be viable, although I've learned tonight it's not a septic, for such a large development, especially in an area with such a high water table as ours, and so close to Lake Simcoe that already has its problems related to phosphorus loading and bacteria. I had samples of Lake Simcoe water checked last year on June 11th and 25th, and both samples came back, no data, overgrown with target, unsafe to drink. Test was overgrown, coliforms, and their E. coli were present. I'm concerned that there will be odors and leaching of contaminants into the surrounding green space and wetlands from this proposed sewage system that will be located just a few hundred meters from my home. I'm on a 13-foot deep dug well. I'm concerned that it could become contaminated. Also, I'm concerned that it could just dry up due to the dewatering during the construction process. Section 1662 and 1664 note municipal sewage services and municipal water services are the preferred form of servicing for settlement areas, not septic systems. I'm concerned that all the rhetoric of the proposal speaks nothing of the negative impact this development will have on those of us living very close by. For those living in the north end, it may not be so bad, but for those of us living right here beside the development, it could be a nightmare. I believe that the very act of increasing density and its associated negative aspects, such as a sewage treatment facility, will kill flora and fauna in the area or expel them from the area, negating the enjoyment I have of seeing all these creatures. Gone will be the snapping turtle population whose babies had to cross Guilford Road from the marina. I've seen people stop to help them cross Guilford Road, and sadly, I saw a few dead on Guilford Road and Neely Road last year. Gone will be the enclave of majestic ash, maple, and oak trees across from me. They will all come down. Page 24 references traffic impact study. I'm concerned about the traffic impact study and parking study by Tatham Engineering that states the adjacent neighborhood will not be negatively impacted by the proposed development. I believe this statement is false. They have proposed a service entrance to a 5-story hotel directly across from my house. My street, Beach Road, is not a wide street, 21.5 feet, has no curbs, ditches, or sidewalks, and has a dead end. Of course, there will be negative impact. At present, there is no road entrance, just parkland, trees, and wildlife across from my house. How can they say there is no negative impact? They have utter disregard and disrespect for the residents on Beach Road, and for that matter, Guilford Road. Beach Road will become the marina's private access road, I believe. I'm concerned about the number of service vehicles, garbage trucks, linen service vehicles, maintenance vehicles, employee vehicles, etc., that could be used using this service entrance for the hotel at all hours of the day and night, and perhaps lined up down Beach Road. If this proposal proceeds, I believe the service entrance to the hotel needs to be off the larger street, Guilford Road. I'm concerned that the parkette is much smaller than stated and that the marina will simply pay cash to town council in lieu. I'm concerned about trespassing from the parkette to our yards where we have no fences, which is a unique feature of this area. I'm concerned that grading of the hotel service parking lot will push surface water into adjacent backyards, especially on Guilford Road. The proposal mentions they will have eyes on the street. And then contradicting this in their overlook policy, they say the buildings have generous setbacks to neighboring properties, which is false. I'm concerned about light pollution from parking lots and buildings and noise pollution from HVAC systems, etc. Thank you, Mayor Dolan, councilors, for listening to me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Next on the list is Ritva Heath. Is Ritva with us?
Oh, yep. Yeah, she's right here.
Hello, Ms. Heath.
This is for Ritva Heath.
Hi, Ritva.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Lynn.
You can talk whenever you're ready.
Pardon me?
Whenever, whatever, what do you want to tell us, Riva?
Read you this. I'm still deaf. Anyway, good evening, Mayor, Lynn, and councillors. I have a number of concerns. There are a number of things that are really concerning to me regarding the application for change in zoning. Air pollution caused by the exhaust emissions from the extra traffic. Change in elevation. The Marina parklands flooding would occur every time it rains due to paved parking lot and a private roadway. My yard and gardens would be underwater The lack of sunlight and natural green space, especially in the spring and fall, would virtually destroy my gardens, and the shade propelled by building the size and the location that is planned that I saw in the drawings would be catastrophic. Pollution of the water entering, I haven't got my glasses on. Excuse me. Pollution of the water entering wells and flowing into Lake Simcoe is a major problem because of the high water table. This phenomena would occur often, contaminants like COVID, chemicals used in cleaning and general housekeeping would leach into the groundwater and further pollute my well and others. I don't know what would happen to the quantity of water once the ground is disturbed. We could lose volume. Extra pollution is entering an already fragile ecosystem. The west and south area of Cooks Bay and the wetlands are a fish nursery in supporting an important resource for Lake Simcoe, the cold water fishery. In recent years, fish have reproduced naturally. My concern is this application is approved and these buildings are built according to plan. It will be set a precedent for the future development and destruction of this very fragile environmentally protected area. Guilford will become a town rather than a hamlet that can't accommodate or support the increase of people and traffic. All residents and cottagers should be aware of this proposal in timely fashion. This matter has been submitted when most of the cottagers and many of the residents are away. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Rifa. Even if I couldn't see you, it was good to hear your voice. So I can tell you now that we did get a message from Megan Varga. She felt that all of her concerns had been covered, so she won't be speaking this evening. So is there anybody who has spoken who would like another opportunity to make other comments? Seeing none, I would ask, have any comments or questions been provided by email or phone during the meeting to the clerk's office?
Your Worship, we have not received anything via email or phone, but I just wanted to make a note that we did mistakenly miss a name of correspondence that we received at the beginning of the meeting. It was from Andrea Thomas, and she had comments opposed to the application.
Thank you. And we did get a copy of that one, I'm sure, Mr. Clerk. Thank you. If you have not made oral or written submissions in regards to this proposal before a decision is reached, you should be aware that the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss your appeal. Anyone who wishes to provide comment may do so and may also register as an interested party to be contacted before this application is further considered by council. And you can contact clerk's office at innisfil.ca. I will now ask for a mover and a seconder. And does council have any further comments or questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Nicol and Councillor Payne. Now this is, the recommendation is to receive the information. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you to everyone who has taken time to watch this live stream meeting and presentation regarding the proposed amendments. Anyone who wishes to provide comment may still do so and may also register as an interested party to be contacted before this bylaw is considered by council. Please contact clerk's office at innisfil.ca. And council thanks everyone for their participation. So now we will move to the confirming bylaw, just to confirm and ratify everything that we've done this evening, and that would be moved by Councillor Van Berkel and Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That is carried. And finally, we'll have a motion for adjournment, and that would be moved by Councillor Nicol and seconded by Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff. Thank you to the consultants that were here this evening. Very much appreciated everyone's time. And I just like to say, really appreciated everybody just being civil and expressing themselves so well, and really appreciate the respect shown from all sides. So thank you so much and have a great evening. Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.